Hello, and welcome to our Candidate Forum series. This forum features candidates running for Sacramento City Council District 7, and we'll be hearing today from Tristan Brown, Victor Edinburgh, and Rick Jennings. My name is Roseanne Chamberlain, and I'm a member of the Sacramento County League of Women Voters, and I'll be serving as the moderator. I'm a member volunteer for the League of Women Voters. The League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of men and women that encourages citizens to be informed and to participate in government at all levels. We're frequently called upon to provide election forums because of the League's reputation for fairness and the open exchange of ideas. As moderator, my job is to keep order and keep track of time and the questions and answers. Here's how we will be proceeding. Each candidate has drawn a card to determine the order of speakers, and the candidates will all answer the same questions. Each candidate will give an opening statement of 1.5 minutes, and then we will ask and answer questions in rotating order. Answers will be 1 minute in length. Lastly, we'll have closing statements of 1.5 minutes in the reverse order from the opening statements. Let's begin with an opening statement from Rick Jennings.
Thank you, Roseanne. Thank you for being our moderator today, and I also want to take this time to thank the League of Women Voters for having this political forum. We appreciate what they do for this community, and we thank them for this opportunity. I want to stop for a second before I go into my introduction, and I want to wish all the mothers happy Mother's Day. That's going to take place tomorrow, and so since we won't have the opportunity to see you tomorrow, we want to take this venue to say happy Mother's Day to all those out there. My name is Rick Jennings, as mentioned before. I am happily married for 40 years to Cassandra Jennings, and that'll be 40 years this month. And so for those who know me, you always see my wife by my side. You also have seen me as a board trustee for the Sacramento City Unified School District. I spent 12 years serving the school district, and most recently, you've seen me as the city council member for District 7. The voters were confident enough in me in 2014 to give me the vote to become the city council member, and I have served District 7 for the last 4 years and served it proudly. I have another hat that I wear, and that is I am the Chief Operating Officer, Chief Executive Officer for the Center for Fathers and Families, and I've been doing that work now for 26 years. It's work that is most meaningful to me, helping fathers to be the fathers that they were intended to be, and also to be the husbands and community leaders that they can be as well. So we help them to do that. I am proud to be here today. I'm looking forward to this forum, looking forward to the questions, and looking forward to engaging with my fellow candidates.
And the next opening statement will be Victor Edinburgh.
I am Victor Edinburgh. Right now I'm serving as a counselor at a charter school. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting me to their forum, and I'm really hopeful that the things that I say here tonight, or this morning, will be effective in helping the city of Sacramento. I've been in the city for quite a while. I've lived here about 30 years, and I know quite a bit about the city of Sacramento, and they've done a great job in many areas. My daughters went to Kennedy High School, and both are graduates of college, and I was one of the ones who worked with those kids as they went through the college careers. I am involved in many community groups in this city. I've worked with many groups that are working on the police problem, the homeless problem, the housing problems, and I work with all of those groups, and I'm collecting signatures for things that are happening in our state, in this city today. I really would like to say that I have always felt a need to be involved with many of the organizations that I am in touch with right now. I've worked and got my bachelor's, my master's, and my PhD degrees, and I'm using those to help kids in the schools, and I will do the same thing with the city council as I work with the folks that are in this city, and work with the council and work with the mayor on those problems that are needed. Thank you.
And the opening statement from Tristan Brown.
Thank you, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us today. It's fantastic to be here and get a chance to speak to the voters. My name is Tristan Brown. I am running for City Council in the 7th District. I'm originally born in Los Angeles to a father who was a journalist specializing in international automobiles, and as well as my mother who worked in the travel industry, and they raised me to have a global perspective on issues and to be someone who would always be ready to help. After leaving Los Angeles for higher education, I studied government. I became very interested in becoming an active civic participant in my community. I got started in politics early by managing a campaign for the mayor of San Bernardino, an amazing man who showed me what a great candidate can be, a wonderful role model who was a Superior Court judge for about 30 years, helping folks addicted to drugs find treatment rather than jail time. After that, I engaged my focus with in-home healthcare workers, and for about 5.5 years represented them all up and down the state in various parts of California, where I learned the value of helping someone and helping our most vulnerable populations. And that lesson I take with me here today. I'm here running to help focus our attention onto those most in need in Sacramento. Folks that are trying to make ends meet, trying to use our transportation system, have living wage job opportunities, and also, of course, number one, help affordable housing options come onto our markets so that Sacramento remains a place where families can grow and raise their families. Thank you.
Very good. We'll now turn to the question section of this forum, and the first question will be answered by Rick Jennings. And I can repeat the question for any of you who need to hear it again when it's your turn to answer. What are the most effective long-term strategies the city can use to invest in neighborhoods like Oak Park, Valley High, and Meadowview? Neighborhoods where residents argue they have been overshadowed by city investment in downtown and in Midtown.
So, we've been working in two of those neighborhoods in the District 7 area, Valley High and Detroit Boulevard. And the thing that we've focused on is to engage our neighbors, to educate them, and to empower them. Neighborhood associations, we have built neighborhood associations and rebuilt neighborhood associations to become an effective voice for the community, getting them to become a part of the team of working to change the outcomes of their neighborhoods. Many times they don't feel like they have a voice. They feel like they're on the outskirts. They don't feel like they're in the central part of the city. Giving them that voice back and making that voice effective and something that can make a difference in their neighborhood has been the most important and powerful thing that we've been able to do. And so I really believe if we just continue to engage, to educate, and to empower the people within those neighborhoods, they can make the difference that needs to be made within their own neighborhoods. And as government, we can work with them to make that happen.
Thank you. And the next answer from Victor Edinburgh.
Yes, I think the first thing that I would do is to have each community start an alliance between the members who are interested in doing things in that community. And the first thing they should do is start making a list of the things that will help that particular area in their quality of life. And those particular factors will help the committee to go on with other things, which would mean that they would be setting up other committees to find out what type of health care is in that particular community that needs to be taken care of, how many mental health facilities should there be, how many things in the school system should be improved. That all those communities should be involved with an alliance where they can get people together to help each other. And then look at the employment things that are happening in that community. If those things are in that community are not is what they should be, then that particular alliance will find out what is happening in that committee and in the city and find out what types of things can help them. Those are the things that I think would help those communities. Thank you.
And Tristan Brown.
I think we must act with great intent. Oftentimes when I am speaking to voters going door to door, I hear them say that they feel a lacking of representation or they feel a connection with government in general. And I don't mean that specifically to any one person, but in general, tracking what government does and what it can do for the individual voter and individual resident is difficult for folks. We're trying to raise our kids, we're trying to keep our jobs, we're trying to increase our standard of living, and making it to 7 p.m. meetings, making it to 2 p.m. board meetings, these are not the things that are always available to the common resident. They need an advocate that is an organizer to come to them and actually work with them directly. And as an organizer, that is my plan to actually go person by person in these areas to listen to their concerns and formulate solutions. I've already been approached by several members in the Valley High area who would like to reboot the old Valley High Neighborhood Association. We're working together to do that, but we can be intentional on how to help folks.
Good. The next question will be answered first by Victor Edinburgh. District 7 is one of the safest parts of the city, but police-community relations are strained in some other communities. What do you see as your role, if you were a city council member, in improving that situation?
One of the things I would do was to find out what the police chief has in mind about changing those things that are in that community that need fixing. There's many things that they haven't, I think, been involved in, and that's getting the community together to find out how they can help with the police department to help the things that are going to be going on in that community. Those things that are going on now have to be stopped. If there's still killings in the next year, I think we ought to look at that police chief again. We've changed the police chiefs. When I first came to Sacramento 30 years ago, there was a problem with the police department where the police were wearing emblems on their uniforms with double thunderbolts. And you know what that means. And the new mayor came in, Cerna came in, and Steinberg was on the council at that time, and that was stopped immediately. So those types of things weren't allowed to take place in the city. So those are the type of things that we'll have to do to help. Thank you.
And Tristan.
Could you repeat that question one more time for me, please?
Yes. District 7 is one of the safest parts of the city, but police-community relations are strained in some other communities. What do you see as your role as a future city council member in improving that situation?
Thank you. I completely agree. There have been stories that I've heard from residents that while District 7 has some of the lowest crime rates, it feels that the property crime has been going up in the area. Just in the neighborhood where I live in Garsha Bend Park, rear sliding glass doors are getting smashed in and houses are being ransacked. Mailboxes are constantly being opened. I myself have had a few packages ripped open on my porch. On the other side of the district in Valley High and Detroit Boulevard, there's of course a huge distrust growing, I think, or maybe has always been there with police officers. Of course, everybody knows that they do an amazing job and that type of work is not to be discredited, but we need someone who will actually work with each individual person, each individual organization, with the actual officers that walk that beat and continue to grow and foster an actual relationship. Everybody should know everybody's name. They should know their kid's name. We should try to get back to that type of policing. Of course, we need to do a lot of work to fully staff our police department. We just don't have enough to go around, and that's probably the first thing that we need to fix.
Thank you. And Rick Jennings.
Thank you very much. Understanding that there is a strain in police-community relations, we see that in District 7. We see that in our Valley High community especially. We see it in our Detroit Boulevard neighborhood. And the thing that we've done is we've started to bring the communities together, to bring police and law enforcement together with the community so that we can understand why there is a mistrust or why there are strained relationships and what can be done about that. So our Summer Night Lights program that we do at Valley High for 4 to 5 months during the course of the year, police officers are there and they're actually engaged and involved with the kids, whether it's shooting basketballs or whether it's doing the electric slide, they're getting involved. They're coming to town hall forums to talk to our kids about the opportunity to build a better relationship. They're going to the Valley High Community Center and working with our kids. They're coaching our kids in the different sports, whether it be football or basketball. So we're doing everything we can to rebuild that trust, and I think it's starting to work. We have the right police chief in Chief Hahn, and we're going to get behind him as he gets to community-oriented policing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question will be answered first by you, Tristan. Do you support the proposed rent control ballot measure that may appear on the November ballot? Do you support rent control in general? And if not, do you support other rent stabilization efforts?
Yes, I do support the ballot measure that is out there being collecting signatures as we speak. I believe that there is a very well balance that was struck in that ballot measure. Both landlords and tenants have the ability to appeal decisions of the board, and it's really there to make sure that fairness is part of our housing solutions for the city. It fights against unjust evictions in case there's just blatant discrimination. It helps with capping the rates of which rents can go up, which have been 15% over the last few years, and wages are not keeping up. Housing is probably the #1 issue that I get talked to about when I go talk to voters. The rent is becoming so unobtainable for most folks, and we have students going to Sac State that are living in cars. We don't have the supply that we need. Now, rent control does not get in the way of building supply. That is a common misnomer. There are many other cities in the state that have had rent control from way back when, before the Costa-Hawkins law came into effect. It will not stop building, but it is an essential part to protect people in being able to continue to live in Sacramento.
And Rick, your turn next.
Thank you very much. So I understand, I want to answer the question first and be very direct in that. I do not support the current rent control measure. I am believing that there should be some form of rent stabilization, but I don't see the current rent control measure as it brings in another level of government that I don't think we need at this point in time. I'm very concerned about that. I'm also concerned that this measure does not do anything to increase our housing stock. And so where we may think that it may not, rent control may not affect our housing stock, it does affect our housing stock. It affects the number of apartments that are being built, the number of affordable housing units that will be built. And so this particular measure, while it has some merits that we should look at, it does not do what we need to do as far as being able to add additional supply, and it doesn't really effectively get to where it is that we want to get to within the city of Sacramento.
Thank you. And Victor, your answer.
Yes, I hope the Hawkins-Costa amendment or bill is defeated at the polls this year, And I hope that the new one that we're trying to get accepted into the state, we're taking signatures now to try to work on the rent control and these types of things. I think that the Hawkins and Costa bill has put a lot of people in jeopardy when they're being evicted without notice. Those types of things have to stop. And if we get the new particular control in, we will have a committee which would look at those things to see if people are evicted illegally, and also see if the rent can be taken down by affordable housing that we would be looking for in the city. And we hope that we can do things that will help people who are in those particular cases be able to afford homes and rent that is not available at this particular time. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by you, Rick.
Okay.
How do you see the future of local business in suburban neighborhoods evolving? And what role do you see the city playing in that evolution?
Well, I'm very happy to say that when I got involved with politics in the District 7 level, we were seeing shopping centers with a 40% vacancy rate. And because of what we've done in the office of going out and bringing businesses in, also making sure that they understand how to navigate through the government system, making it easier for them to navigate through the government system, and also increasing the speeding of the permit process, we have seen new businesses come into those shopping centers that are most affected by low vacancy rate. We've also seen the city, as far as it trying to do its part with the Rails grant and other forms of grants that we're putting out in place. I think $11.5 million was requested for $1.5 million that we had. So that means that business is alive and well in Sacramento. It's just us looking for more opportunity to help them to create the businesses in our communities. But I'm very pleased about what's happening in District 7.
Good.
Would you repeat that question?
Yes,
please?
I will. How do you see the future of local business in suburban neighborhoods evolving? And what role do you see the city playing in that evolution?
I think they'll be playing a big part in that. We also have Delta Shores, which is in that particular 7th right now, and that's going to be a big thing, and I think that can be improved a lot. So that type of business that's starting in Delta Shores and the type of business that could go along with Delta Shores, I think those things will help the city institute things that will be very instrumental and very profitable to the business community and be affordable to the community that we're living in today. Thank you.
Good. And Tristan.
So I think it's going to be very tough for the small business in Sacramento. Speaking of Delta Shores, I think it was a big mistake to allow a Walmart to come into that area. They have shown a history of lowering property values, raising crime rates, and not really caring about the communities in which they operate, and often can sometimes just leave an empty box store when it no longer becomes profitable. And that is something that is cutting against our small business owners in the Pocket and Valley High areas. Now, as I drive around and been walking from door to door, I see a lot of empty retail still in our area. Unfortunately, there might be out-of-town landowners who operate and own these retail spaces that might not really have a connection to our community, and that's a problem. We need to think of some carrots and sticks. We often think of the carrots, but maybe not always the stick, in how we can actually help force the hand of some of the landowners in these shopping centers, bring more affordable rents to our small business associations and our small business operators. We also need to be a little bit more intentional on fostering the growth of those businesses with our residents. And so it takes a little bit more hand-holding to help them through our bureaucracy, and that's something that I'd like to do.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have time to do an additional question right now. We're just a tiny bit short, so we'll move into the closing statements, and those will go in reverse order of the opening statements. So we'll start with you, Tristan, for the closing statement.
Well, thank you very much. Just once again, I'd like to talk to voters about my experience being a one-on-one advocate for people. I come from a long career now, about 11, 12 years of working in membership-based organizations. I represent teachers in our state capitol currently, and I am very much accustomed to and think there's great value in going from individual to listen to the needs and concerns and being an advocate for them. That is what I think the job description of a city council member is, and it can be done very well. Just to touch on housing again, I'd like to take a minute for us to think about outside the box solutions. Things like public banking, in which a lot of other cities our size are contemplating, so that we can actually become a financier publicly of low-income housing. Because while rent control will save folks like seniors and those vulnerable who can't make the increased rent payments, having a public bank that allows us to incentivize and really fund low income and various housing options in a city is something that we can do together with great intent. And it just requires us to step up and become market participants sometimes when the market lags. And that's something as the public we can come together with great transparency and oversight and make sure that our dollars are being spent properly and really help our citizens directly rather than waiting and hoping for other solutions to come about. So as I go door to door, these are the kinds of conversations that I have with folks. People have been letting me know their problems, and I can't wait to roll my sleeves up and get to work and help out in our city. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Victor, next.
Yes, I'd like to ask the question. The question is, philosophically, does the man make the job or does the job make the man? I think some of the things that have happened in this particular council that we have today, the man hasn't been made because some of the decisions that have been made have not been for the citizens, for the homeless, for the ones who are out of jobs, for the school systems. I think that the job has to be done by a man who knows that what the problems are in the city. And in the city, we need some help. So therefore, I would say I would be the man for that particular job. Thank you.
And lastly, Rick Jennings.
So good. So, Mr. Edinburgh, I'll respectfully say to you that you already have the man that understands exactly what is going on in our district and is doing the job in order to make things move forward. We are the safest district in the city of Sacramento. And that is not by accident. That is very purposeful, and that is very intentful. And we have worked hard together, whether it's next door, whether it's our neighborhood associations, whether it's the pods, all the strategies that we put in place. But it's the people working together in order to make those kind of things happen. The Parkway Plan, which I promised in 2014, we are making progress. And we are moving forward to opening up that parkway. The Parkway Plan of 1975, that for 40 years has not had any movement whatsoever. We are moving forward on that. We have 23 parks and 12 schools. We have renovated a lot of our parks. Over 12 of our parks have been renovated in order to meet the needs of today's constituents, our neighbors, our friends. For kids who are growing up today, we have renovated those. We will continue to renovate those parks. And we are working in partnership with our schools. And we have a great partnership with our school. We're there working with them. We have brought City Hall back to the neighborhood. All of our events, all of our activities, whether it's the 4th of July parade, the egg extravaganza, the jazz in July, the trucks and such, the movie nights, town hall meetings, all of those things have come back to the community. And we are making a difference. And our people love us for bringing government back to the community and making it accessible to them. So I'm excited about what's happening in District 7. We have built a foundation, and I am looking forward to continuing to build. I ask for your vote for re-election for District 7.
Thank you. Thank you to all of those in our audience for joining us for this candidates forum. Our goal at League of Women Voters is to help you make the best informed decision you can when you cast your ballot at the polls. And I'm excited to announce that we have major changes in the way that you can vote in this upcoming election. Everyone has already received, hopefully, a mailed ballot. Those went out last week. I got mine, and I'm excited to vote under the new arrangement. You have 3 different choices for how you can cast your ballot. The idea is to make it accessible for everyone to vote. You can drop your ballot, fill it out at home, and drop it into any of the drop boxes that are throughout the county, including the cities. And you can find a drop box at every public library. There are other locations too, and those are listed in the ballot pamphlet. You can vote in person the way we've always voted at the polling places at any of the several vote centers that are being set up. And the ballot pamphlet that you receive will identify the locations for those special vote centers. And the third way might be the easiest way to cast your ballot. You can mail it in. It takes 2 stamps to send the ballot, but that will be received. If the postage is short, I understand that the county elections office is going to cover the shortage on the postage. But do put 2 stamps on the ballot to ensure that it's delivered in a timely manner. Voting begins May 8th. The League of Women Voters encourages you to learn as much as you can about the candidates and the ballot measures that appear on your upcoming ballot. There are some websites that are available for you: the California Easy Voter Guide, the votersedge.org, sacramento.vote, and Sacramento Metro Cable TV will live stream these forums repeatedly between now and the election, so you can get additional information there. The League of Women Voters is an organization where hands-on work to safeguard democracy leads us to civic improvement. Please join League members throughout the county in casting your ballot for the June election. Thank you very much.